Every time you flip a light switch or plug in your phone, you're tapping into this incredible, invisible power grid running right through your walls. But have you ever stopped to think about what keeps all that power in check? What stops it from, becoming a huge danger? Well, today, we're going to pull back the drywall and take a look at the unseen guardian that's protecting your home literally every second of every day. So let me ask you, what do you think is the single most important safety device in your home? Your first thought might be, I don't know, a smoke detector, maybe a security alarm. And look, those are absolutely critical, but they only go off after something bad has already started. The most important safety feature, it's the one that prevents the disaster from happening in the first place. And here's the kicker, it's not a device at all.
Yeah, we're talking about something that's designed to stop a disaster before it can even get started. It's a proactive shield, not just a reactive alarm.
It's a rule book. No, seriously. It's this massive, incredibly detailed book of rules that dictates how every single wire, every outlet, every circuit breaker in your home has to be installed. It's all about making sure the entire system is designed to be safe right from the get-go. This rulebook is called the National Electrical Code, or the NEC for short. And let me be clear, this is not just a bunch of friendly suggestions. Oh no, this is the official standard for electrical safety, put together and constantly updated by the top experts in the field. It is literally the reason you can plug in your toaster and not have to worry about what's happening behind the wall. Okay, so how exactly does a book stop a fire? Well, it all starts at the very foundation, with the rules for wiring and protection. These are the rules that spell out exactly how to get all that power from the street into your home and to your outlets safely. We're going to dive into a specific section, Chapter 2, Wiring and Protection. Now, you can basically think of this chapter as the master blueprint for your home's electrical safety. It lays out all the fundamental, non-negotiable rules for moving electricity safely from the outside world through your walls and right to your gadgets. And inside that blueprint, there's one particular component that is so important, so critical, that it gets its very own set of special rules. So let's meet the feeder conductor. Okay, I know the official definition here sounds super technical. It says, a feeder is all circuit conductors between the service equipment and the final branch circuit overcurrent device. Yeah, what does that even mean in plain English, right? What does it mean for your home? Here's a much simpler way to think about it. Feeders are like the major highways or even the main arteries of your home's electrical system. These are the really thick, heavy-duty cables that carry huge amounts of power from your main electrical panel to smaller distribution points, which then send power out to all the smaller circuits. They're the absolute backbone. And you can probably guess, because these arteries are carrying so much power, the rules for them have to be incredibly strict. And that brings us to a really specific part of the code, Article 215. So right there in the NEC, you've got this whole section, Article 215, and its entire job is to lay down the law for these feeder conductors. You can think of it as the dedicated safety manual just for these electrical highways, telling you exactly what you need to do to make sure they work safely. And Article 215 is all about building safety in layers. First, you have the installation requirements, how to physically put it in place. Then there's overcurrent protection, which is basically your defense against power surges. It also gets super specific about the minimum conductor size, how thick the wire has to be. And that's directly tied to what's called ampacity, which is just a fancy word for how much electricity it can safely carry before it starts to get dangerously hot. See how each rule stacks on top of the next? And this is exactly why all those rules are so critical. Get the feeder size right, and you get safe, reliable power. But if you use an undersized wire, one that's too thin for the job, you've basically just installed a giant heating element inside your walls. It'll overheat, melt its protective coating, and could absolutely start a fire. We're talking about a single rule in a single book that is the literal difference between a safe home and a potential catastrophe. All right, so let's zoom back out for a second. We just went deep, right? From this huge rule book down to one chapter and then to one very specific type of wire. But I hope this one example really shows you just how incredibly important the entire NEC is. And it's so important to get that this isn't some dusty old book sitting on a shelf. The code is a living, breathing document. It's constantly being updated by experts. For example, the latest 2023 edition has all new rules for things like EV chargers and home solar panels, making sure that this guardian in your walls is always keeping up with our modern world. So what's the big takeaway from all this?
Well, the NEC isn't just some technical manual for electricians. It's a complete system of preventative safety that protects all of us. Those feeder wires really are the critical arteries of your home, and every single rule about them, from their size to how they're installed, exists for one reason and one reason only: to stop a disaster before it happens. All that complexity might seem like a lot, but it's not a burden. It's your shield. And that really leaves us with a pretty interesting question to think about, doesn't it? As our homes become more and more electric, I mean, we're talking electric cars, electric heat pumps, the whole shebang, how is this unseen guardian going to have to change? What will the next generation of safety rules even look like to keep us all safe in that all-electric future?